Henry's mother was excitedly playing a game on the sofa, while Henry, her son, was diligently managing the household expenses nearby. Unlike other kids, Henry truly enjoyed this task. Ever since his parents divorced, Henry and his younger brother Peter had been living with their mother. Henry was known as a child prodigy in the neighborhood. In English class, he could recite complete essays from memory, and he could defeat his teacher in chess with a single move. In his wooden shed, he researched various devices and even invested in stocks to save money for his mother's retirement. However, even a genius like Henry had his own troubles. Henry's troubles stemmed from his neighbors, Glenn and a young girl, Christina, who lived next door. Glenn was not Christina's biological father and often abused her. In class, Christina was frequently distracted, and Henry noticed this. Initially, he reported it to the principal, but the principal, intimidated by Glenn's identity as the town's police chief, dismissed Henry's concerns with excuses. Frustrated, Henry contacted Child Protective Services, but the investigator turned out to be the chief's brother, who also dismissed the case. One day, while shopping with his mother, Henry witnessed a man hitting a woman. He wanted to intervene, but his mother stopped him, advising him not to get involved. This made Henry very upset, and he confronted his mother later, unable to shake off the incident at the supermarket. After this incident, Henry decided to take matters into his own hands to help the abused girl next door. He researched the best vantage points from the bridge, studied how to purchase a gun from a gun store, and even planned the perfect sniper position with his brother's help. However, just as Henry was about to execute his plan, he had a violent seizure and was sent to the hospital. After a series of examinations, the doctor informed Susan, Henry's mother, that his condition wasn't serious. Despite his young age, Henry exhibited a remarkable level of maturity. Perhaps because of his parents' divorce, Henry had long seen himself as the pillar of his family, always worrying about his mother's feelings. Later, Henry spoke to his brother Peter. Though he hesitated at first, he finally managed to share his thoughts. That night, Henry left, and Susan felt as if she had lost the most precious thing in her life. One day, Susan received a letter from her son, containing the account information for the retirement money he had saved for her. Overwhelmed with grief, Susan couldn't hold back her tears. Henry was really gone. Peter, remembering his promise to his brother, showed their mother Henry's red notebook. Shocked by the contents, Susan couldn't believe Henry's meticulous plan. The notebook detailed his careful observations and steps he had intended to take to rescue Christina. After this, Susan tried various ways to help Christina, as it was Henry's wish. Unfortunately, nothing seemed to work. Until one night, she witnessed Christina suffering through the window. Determined, she decided to give Henry's plan a try. She opened the safe and took out the recorder Henry had left her. As she played it, Henry's voice was so familiar, it felt as if he was right there with her. Whether it was the immense grief from losing her son or a genuine desire to honor his wishes, Susan followed Henry's instructions step by step. To avoid drawing attention, she first went to the bank to withdraw money for the gun purchase. Following Henry's meticulous plan, she avoided security cameras and successfully bought the gun. She then practiced shooting repeatedly. She even obtained Glenn's signature through school documents, preparing for the possibility of adopting Christina in the future. She chose to act on Henry's birthday. After dropping Peter off at school, she swiftly drove home, avoiding everyone. Using the recorder, she lured Glenn into her trap. But at the crucial moment of pulling the trigger, she accidentally triggered a small device Henry had set up earlier. A series of photos were revealed before her eyes, and she was jolted back to reality. Deciding to abandon the plan, she walked out of the shed. However, Glenn, having heard the commotion, confronted her. No longer willing to tolerate his actions, Susan exposed his abusive behavior. Glenn, unfazed, threatened to report Susan for attempted murder, boasting of his connections that would protect him. Fueled by Henry's courage, Susan stood her ground. Glenn, visibly shaken, returned home. Susan, following Henry's instructions, disposed of the gun in the river's most turbulent spot. After completing these tasks, she hurried back to the school to watch her younger son's performance. As the performance ended and everyone prepared to leave, Susan felt a sense of relief. She looked at Peter with pride, knowing she had done everything she could to protect her family and fulfill Henry's wish. Outside, there was a sudden, loud noise. Susan thought that Glenn had reported her. She learned that Glenn had committed suicide. The detectives had come to interview Christina about the situation. It turned out that during the school performance, the principal had carefully observed Christina's movements. Her painful and helpless expressions, Her behavior that was not typical for her age revealed her inner struggle and powerlessness. Perhaps it was this that awakened the principal's conscience, and she decisively called the police. Glenn, knowing the truth was out, sought help to cover it up, but to no avail. Unable to bear the looming disgrace, he chose to end his own life. After the incident, Susan burned Henry's precious belongings. Her reason for letting go of these items might have been that, through carrying out her son's plan to save Christina, she had also grown stronger and found healing. She officially adopted Christina, and with memories of Henry in her heart, they lived a peaceful and warm life together. As the film ends, the narrative underscores a profound message. Susan, the protagonist, initially indifferent due to self-preservation, the principal, initially indifferent due to various concerns. This reflects a universal fear of violence, of having weaknesses exposed, of getting into trouble. The movie fundamentally expresses a hope that people will no longer be hindered by such fears and indifference, and instead unleash the unimpeded goodness of human nature. As Henry once said, sometimes a good story reminds you of who you want to be. That might be why there are so many stories about good and evil, about human emotions, about survival and death. No matter the story, you always choose one to believe in. So, what is your best part of the Book of Henry?